Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of V.I.P, a Korean crime thriller from 2017. So a son to a high-ranked official in North Korea defects to the south, but commits a series of murders in both countries. V.I.P. Gwang-il Kim, played by Jong-suk Lee, arrives in South Korea through planning by the NIS in South Korea and CIA in America. He quickly becomes a suspect in a series of brutal homicides. A detective, played by Myung-min Kim, knows by intuition that Gwang-il is the culprit, but an NIS agent, played by Dong-gun Jang, protects him, as directed by his superiors. So at the beginning of the film, we see a North Korean investigator becoming rather irritated that this young punk is allowed to do whatever he wants in his home country. And that kind of helps to set the stage for the entire film. The antagonist is a young man who has strong political connections that prevents him from being brought to justice for his deplorable actions, even when he secretly immigrates to various countries to continue his reign of terror. Now, the director here is a man by the name of Hoon-jung Park, who previously directed New World and The Tiger, among a few other titles. Now, as expected, V.I.P. is very nicely directed. The film looks very nice, and it maintains a nice rhythm from start to finish. Scoring and music are also quite good, especially at the very beginning and the end. Now, this film is a solid cast of actors who all give solid performances. You may know Myung-min Kim from films such as Deranged and K-dramas such as The Lord of Dramas, which I liked quite a bit. I liked his performance in V.I.P. because he accurately expresses the mindset of the viewer while watching the film. He becomes frustrated and angry when his attempts to take down the bad guy are blocked by political red tape, and that's how the viewer is going to feel. You may know Dong-gun Jang from films such as Taegukji, Friend, 2009 Lost Memories, and No Tears for the Dead. His character in V.I.P. is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because his superiors want him to protect the serial killer due to his connections. But over the course of the film, he grows more and more frustrated with that task. And you may know Jong-suk Lee from the recent K-drama W, Two Worlds, which I reviewed previously on this YouTube channel. Talk about a role reversal for this guy. He was very likable as the lead protagonist in Two Worlds, but in V.I.P. he plays just a total scumbag. And he has like this smug grin on his face when confronted with the protagonist. Like, even when there's evidence against him, he kind of knows he's going to get away with it. So it's such a pompous facial expression, you just want to punch him in the face, throughout the entire film. So he does a good job. Now, while I very much enjoyed the performances in this film, I will admit that the characters themselves lack a certain complexity to them. They're all basically defined by the characteristics that I just mentioned, and there's not a whole lot going on beneath the surface. That's a criticism of the film that I can understand. However, anyone who is familiar with this YouTube channel should know that the only thing that I care about when watching a film is whether or not the film can hold my interest. I don't care if it's like a weird art house film that doesn't make sense, or a brainless action film, or a traditional drama that focuses on character development. All I care about is whether or not the film can hold my interest. And I have to say that V.I.P. successfully held my interest as a thriller that focuses less on character development and more on conflict. And the conflict is successfully established through something that irritated quite a few people. This film stirred up some controversy due to its depicted violence against women, which got some critics and moviegoers, all riled up, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Anytime your film can offend someone, you're probably doing something right. One of the worst things that can go through the mind of a filmmaker is if they think to themselves, like, maybe I should not put this scene in my movie because it might offend some people. No, just make your movie. Just make your movie. If people want to whine about it after the fact, that's their problem. Especially nowadays when, everyone is offended by everything, which means that filmmakers should go out of their way to make their movies even more offensive. See, that's the proper response when protecting artistic expression. Even if your film is terrible, make the movie that you want to make. Now, with that said, does V.I.P. have a problem with gratuitous violence against women? Well, first of all, there's really only one scene of fairly graphic violence against a woman near the beginning of the film, with the rest of the violence being inflicted against men. And one of those male characters bites the dust in a more violent manner than the female victim. Second, the early murder sequence is important to the film because it gives us a glimpse of the psychology of the antagonist. This is a young man who has no value for human life, but the movie does not glorify him in any way. Quite the opposite, in fact. Within the opening 20 minutes, the viewer will really want to see this guy get taken down, and it will likely make the viewer's blood boil. You know what I mean? So if you have that reaction, the scene is doing its job properly. And third, the violence in V.I.P. is nothing special. When I heard that this film was offending people with its violence, I was kind of excited to see some really nasty stuff. Is it more violent than the typical thriller? Possibly. There are a few sufficiently bloody, uncomfortable scenes in it, but there's nothing exceptional about the violence in this movie. Not enough to get people riled up. If you're someone who is actually offended by the violence in V.I.P., I think you need a little homework assignment to gain some perspective. So I want you to check out the following films. Kichiku Dai and Kai from 1997, also known as Banquet of the Beasts. Men Behind the Sun from 1988. Naked Blood from 1996. Red to Kill from 1994. Psycho the Snuff Reels from 1998, also known as Tumbling Doll of Flesh. And All Night Long 2 Atrocity from 1995. So, in terms of graphic violence, V.I.P. is the equivalent of an elementary school play compared to those films. So if you want to, piss and moan about violence in movies, you could at least target the films that are actually excessive in their violence. So I don't understand what the big deal is with V.I.P. But with that said, V.I.P. is certainly worth watching. For a 2-hour film, it moves briskly. Never really lost my interest. It does have some flaws, I would say, in terms of the character development. And there's really not a whole lot for the women to do in this movie. There's only, 1 or 2 side characters that show up, which people have a big problem with. But, given the characters in the film, really not that big of a problem for me. So it's currently available on Region 3 DVD with English subtitles. And as always, we will see you next time.